So, Fernanda, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for the National Lottery Community Fund Meet the Fund. Right? There might be more people joining us as we go through, but we'll let them in as they come. So, Rachel, do you want to take us away with your presentation?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you to Carvo for the opportunity to talk to you all today about the funding that we've got available from the National Lottery Community Fund. My name is Rachel Richards. I'm the funding manager in Mid and West Wales, and I've got responsibility for the People and Places programme, which is our larger programmes in funding. So to give you a bit of background first, National Lottery Community Fund is the largest non-statutory community funder in Wales. So we distribute money raised by the National Lottery players to thousands of organisations across Wales each year. The other National Lottery distributors are the Arts Council of Wales, National Lottery Heritage Fund and Sport Wales. And as you can see from this slide, we deliver 40% of the funding in Wales, which is the largest chunk of the money that comes in. So in June 2024, last year, we launched our new strategy. It starts with community, and that sets out our direction of travel as a funder until 2030 and details of our ambition to deliver our funding to strengthen society and improve lives across the UK. So we've got 4 community-led missions, which I'll come along to in a bit more detail further on in the presentation. But these include supporting communities to come together, be environmentally sustainable, help children and young people thrive, and enable people to live healthier lives. So we'll be applying a sharper focus on tackling inequality, meaning that we are looking to focus more on the places, people, and communities who experience poverty, disadvantage, and discrimination in Wales. We'll also be supporting environmental action across all of our funding, so looking to invest in environmental sustainability and to support projects to consider the environment, even when environmental isn't their main focus. So there's 3 main hallmarks of the strategy. So we're looking for funding to make a bigger difference by listening and responding to communities and by focusing on supporting bolder change. Our strategy is therefore built around 3 hallmarks: strengthening our grassroots community funding, being bolder in pursuit of change, and building on the success of the National Lottery story. So we have a presence across Wales at a local level, putting people and communities centre stage in everything that we do. So our teams are structured across 3 regions. We've got the North Wales region, Mid and West Wales, and South East and Central Wales. So this means that there's a dedicated funding officer who looks after an area of Wales. Generally, we have a funding officer linked to every county across Wales. And they have a strong local knowledge, which means that we have greater understanding and better insight into the emerging needs of communities within that county. And here in Ceredigion, we form part of the Mid and West Wales team. So at the moment, we have 3 main grant programmes available in Wales. These are always open and there's no deadlines to applying to any of these programmes. So we've got the National Lottery Awards for All programme, which is the smallest of our programmes, offering £300,000 to £20,000 worth of funding. And then the People and Places programme, which is split between a medium grant and a large grant. So today I'm going to focus mainly on the People and Places programme and talk through the changes that came to that programme, which we implemented back in September 2024. So as before, the People and Places programme continues to offer grants between £20,001 and £500,000, and it's split into 2 strands. So you've got the medium grants, which are up to £100,000, and then the larger grants over £100,000 up to £500,000. And both of these programmes can fund projects lasting up to 5 years. So to be eligible for People and Places, you must ensure that you are not-for-profit constituted group, that you hold a UK bank account with 2 unrelated people as signatories, that you prepare annual accounts. And under People and Places, you must also have at least 3 unrelated members on your committee or your board. So under People and Places 4, which is what we're calling the new programme, we want to fund projects that work closely with people and communities in Wales that help issues that matter most to your community and though that they are accessible to their community. So by community, we mean people who share an identity, interest or experience, or people living in the same geographical place. So we're looking for projects who involve the community in the project development, design and delivery. This means being community-led. So being community-led means involving the people who will benefit in the project, involving them in the design and delivery of your project. So that includes the people that take part in your project, their networks, such as their family or friends or carers, and also then the wider community that your organisation works in. So you'll need to make sure that when you are designing your project, you not only include those who currently benefit from your services in your consultation, but that you also include people in the wider community who could potentially benefit from your new project. And there's many ways to get your community involved in your project, and there is no one size fits all. It looks different for every project. Some groups send out questionnaires, some run focus groups, some go knocking on doors in the community or undertake surveys. For other organisations, it might be a case of bringing people together for a cup of tea and chat. But the most important thing is to get people involved in a way that means that you hear them, you know your community, so you know the best way of getting that information from your community. And every community, like I mentioned, is completely different. So we are flexible with how you talk to your community. And we're also realistic as to how the evidence of your community consultation looks in applications. What's important to us is that we need to see that your community has been involved in the development of the project. And we want to fund projects that have been developed with people, not projects that have been done for them. And you should remember to use the techniques that work best for you. So remember to try and reach different groups of people in your community, such as children and young people, older people, or the people you know well. It's also important that you reach out and talk to people that don't already use your services or access any of your activities. Need to remember to ask open questions and give people the opportunity to put ideas forward and to shape your project. And we want to see that you have a good understanding relationship with people in your community, that you're aware of the priorities and the concerns and the needs of your community, and then that the project that you're developing is responsible to those people's needs. We're also looking at projects to build on the skills, experience, and strengths within the community. So we want to encourage people and communities to think about what strengths they have and how they can use and develop those strengths to make changes for themselves and their community. So it means focusing on things like the skills, assets, and energy that people can draw upon, and remembering that every person can add value and that they can have something to offer, such as talents, ability, relationships, skills, knowledge. And people may have previously experienced challenges that your project idea intends to address, such things as debt, isolation, alcohol misuse, for example. And having those with lived experience directly involved in the project is an example of building on the strengths within the community. So we also want to understand what organisations, activities or services are already available within your community, and you need to show us how you will work with them to fill the gap. So what we're looking for is we also want to know that you have a good understanding of what others are doing locally, what their activities and services are that already exist. And then what you're going to be doing is going to be complementing them and adds value rather than duplicating. And that you have working relationships with other relevant groups. And you can think about being connected at two levels, that you know what the community need and will use, and that you know the community you work in, you know what services exist, what opportunities exist, and that you have a plan on how you can build on these opportunities and develop that into your project. We're also asking projects to consider the impact on the environment. For example, if you need to organise travel, you could use a minibus, community minibus, to cut down on pollution instead of everyone travelling separately by car, but I'll come more into that environmental things later on. So on our website, we also have what we call a strengths checker. It's a free online tool which will help you as an organisation to not only identify your own strengths, but also areas within the organisation that may need some support to be developed and improved. Things such as maybe marketing or monitoring, fundraising, business planning, organisational sustainability. The results of this strengths checker are personal to you as an organisation, so we don't receive a copy of what it generates out. But I would suggest that if you're considering an application to us under the People and Places programme, that you do make use of this tool, because if there's any areas of development that you may identify, whether it's project related or even wider organisation related, such costs such as working with a consultant to help you address that, things like that can be included within the funding that you ask us for through an application. So it's beneficial to you really to go through that process. And I will also add as well that as part of this, we will not use any of this information in the report about where you could develop or improve your organisation to decide if you get funding. It doesn't have an impact on decisions through that. So for both the medium and the large People and Places grants, the type of information you will need to have to hand to apply includes things like what you'd like to do, how you're involving your community, how you're going to deliver your project, and how you'll consider your project's impact on the environment. So I'll talk through the medium grant to begin with. So this is for projects funding from 20,000 up to 100,000 for anything up to 5 years. Again, we want to fund projects that work closely with people and communities in Wales that help issues that matter most to your community and who are accessible to the community. So initially, we ask that you take a look at the guidance materials on our website. So under the programme, we can fund things like any new or existing projects, work to help you plan a project that has a land or building work, capital costs such as lands or buildings, vehicles, refurbishment. So under this programme as well, once you've done your consultation, once you've engaged with the community and you've designed your project, contact us by either phone or email to discuss the idea. You'll be put through to a funding officer covering your geographical area. So there'll be a funding officer for Ceredigion who will be appointed to you. And it's a chance for you to give us advice, for us to give you advice and support and let you know whether it's something we may or may not fund. If we think it's something that we may fund and that you are ready to proceed, we'll then send you an application form and ask that you send us back to us within 15 weeks. The difference now with People and Places compared to how it has been previously is that we're not able to extend the deadline for submitting those applications. So you will have a deadline within the application form, and you will need to get it back to us before that. If you don't, you will need to start the whole process again and speak to the funding officer to ensure that it is something that we can continue to fund. Once we've received your application, we get a decision to you within 15 weeks. The application process also is online. So if you are invited to apply, you will receive a link to an online application form. That's through our digital application portal. We also do have hard copy PDFs if you're not able to access the portal, or if you want easy read application forms, we are able to cater for that to assist you with the process. So just to give you a couple of examples of projects that we funded in Ceredigion, an example of a project under the medium People and Places is funding that we've given to Huts in Newcastle Emlyn. They received a grant of just over 98,000 to support their community of adults with mental health concerns or learning disabilities by continuing to offer their call and chat service. This project will employ experienced individuals to make regular weekly phone calls and help beneficiaries to support their well-being, reduce isolation, improve self-confidence, increase their knowledge, skills, and social networks. This project is building on the success of previous work while diversifying, enhancing and adapting the service. So they've listened to the people who have benefited from the service to date. They've also then consulted with the wider community, and they've used that through a variety of methods such as chats, questionnaires, and obviously input through holding an open day. And they've also demonstrated the links that they have with a wide range of other groups and organisations as well. So in terms of the People and Places large grant, this is for projects looking to look for funding from 100,000 up to 500,000, and again for anything up to 5 years. So again, we want to fund projects that work closely with people and communities in Wales, and for projects that are accessible to the community. You can apply for funding to help your organisation change and adapt to challenges in the community, to buy land, buildings and vehicles, or pay for refurbishments. It will usually take around 40 weeks from when you have that first contact with us to talk through your project idea to finding out whether you are successful in an application. The difference with this is it's a two-stage application process. So again, you'll need to have contact with a funding officer to talk through your idea and eligibility for the programme. If it's something they feel you're eligible for, they will send you an email with a link to the online ideas form. And there's a link to the full list of questions on the application form on our website, just to give you an idea of what that is before you open those forms and before you apply to us as well. So we'll let you know whether you're invited through to stage 2 within 6 weeks of receiving that ideas form. If you're invited through to stage 2, this again is an online form and you'll receive a link from the funding officer. And again, there'll also be a link there to the full list of questions on our website for information. After submitting your stage 2 application, we will then let you know the decision within 16 weeks of receiving the application. So a couple of examples we've got of larger grants that we funded recently in Ceredigion. Stage Goats Theatre Company received a grant of just under 500,000, and that was to develop a Goats Youth Cafe for young people in Lampeter to provide open and inclusive services, and they've co-designed and delivered those services in partnership with young people and professionals. The Youth Cafe model will support people to live, work and grow within the community. It will provide spaces for young people to work whilst gaining skills and experience to stay locally. Workshops and activities will create engagement opportunities and will enhance the current support package. And by partnering with other organisations, the services will be strengthened to support young people by sharing best practices, knowledge and resources. So the model then will ensure that young people have access to safe space provision. It will increase feelings of resilience, self-esteem, safety, and will also give support to the wider community around reducing youth disengagement and antisocial behaviour in Lampeter. So another example is Golwg 360. They received again a grant of just under 500,000. And that was to develop a series of Welsh language community websites across Wales. They'd already been operating in Afon and parts of Ceredigion, and with this funding, they then expanded to other areas in Wrexham, Cardiff and Rhondda Cynon Taf. So the aim of the websites is to increase the strength of Welsh language community and activities in those areas, whilst helping to improve people's Welsh language, bringing them together to develop, manage and contribute to community events and websites. The project places emphasis primarily on local action and making a difference, and it's about empowering community activity being the main focus of the work. So this model of working is to create connections within the communities between individuals and groups, between organisations and local businesses, with a view to strengthening those communities and Welsh activity in them to help secure the future of sustainable, stronger social ties and economic prosperity. So to recap on the People and Places Medium programme, The medium grant offers funding between 20,000 and 100,000. It's a one-stage application and decisions will be made within 15 weeks of applying. The large grant then offers funding between 100,000 and 500,000. It's a two-stage application and it does take around about 40 weeks from first contacting us to receive a decision. So new for this revised format of people and places is our priorities. So it's our 4 priority areas that are set out in our new strategy, which is the focus of our funding across the UK. There we are. So supporting communities to come together. So we're looking for projects to have connections with friends, neighbours and people with shared interests and experiences, and that they are integral to the project. These connections also, we're looking to bind communities together, to create networks and power to lead action and shape change. But then not all communities are set up to help people come together, and increasingly many people feel disconnected or isolated. So we're looking at helping communities find a way of coming together to be better supported. So supporting communities to help children and young people to thrive, looking at projects that will be delivering community activities, experiences and support that are transformative in supporting children, young people and their families to thrive. Every child and young person should have access to the support of trusted adults, giving enriching activities and opportunities to connect with others. So looking at society that can benefit enormously by listening more to young people's views and by recognising their ability to make a positive difference. We want all children and young people to have the opportunity to participate in community and to shape the activities and decisions that affect them and their futures. Also looking at communities to enable people to live healthier lives. So just being part of a community can make you healthier and happier. There are huge opportunities for communities to support people to live healthier lives. And we know that people with lived experience, civil society organisations, and the public sector all have a role to play. And we're looking to invest in communities that foster well-being and good physical and mental health. We're also looking to support communities to be environmentally sustainable. So climate change is the most pervasive threat to the natural environment and societies the world has ever experienced. So while many environmental challenges are global, there is a huge potential for UK communities to make a difference locally. And we're looking to embed support for environmental action across all funding, including supporting all projects that consider the environment, even where this is not their main focus. And we'll also invest in specific environmental projects so communities can help create a healthy planet. So in terms of equality, equity, diversity and inclusion, we're expecting your organisation and the activities that we fund to be open and accessible, to promote equalities and challenge discrimination. And you can include costs to help your project be more accessible to your community as part of your proposed budget. So in the application form, we'll now be asking you how you'll reach underrepresented groups in your community. By underrepresented groups, we mean groups that focus on representing the needs of people such as older people, disabled people, women, ethnically minoritized people, faith-based communities, LGBTQ+ people, and people living in rural communities. And we'd also like to understand your approach to equality, equity, diversity, inclusion. And we may well ask to see your organisation's equalities policy as part of our assessment. So from an environmental side and considering environmental impact, we also want to fund organisations now that consider their impact on the environment. As I mentioned, you do not have to be a climate or environment-focused organisation to have to apply. So everyone who delivers charitable services or runs a community venue can make choices to create a positive environmental impact, from little things such as saving energy and money, reducing waste, and cutting carbon emissions. So we've created some practical tips as a starting point for any charity or community group looking to co-create an environmental action plan with their staff, volunteers, and trustees. And there's links to these on our website. And it shows the benefits of having an environmental action plan and shares ideas of what you could include, alongside examples from our grant holders showing how they've made their plans and the difference that these are now helping them to make. So creating an environmental action plan, also sometimes known as a climate action plan, carbon savings or sustainability plan or policy. This helps you embed low carbon behaviours across your organisation's work. A plan sets out your environmental objectives, assigns responsibilities, and explains how you will monitor the progress, and that monitoring is also quite key to us. Plans will also help you put sustainability at the heart of your work and ensure that your trustees and management, staff, volunteers, service users and partners are all committed to taking positive action. So in the People and Places application form now, we have a question around environment, and we want you to tell us about the steps that you've taken to reduce negative impacts on the environment, or even how you've had a positive impact. And this could be through things just simply like reducing your travel, your waste, or your energy use. So as before, and as with all of our funding, we want people in Wales to access the projects we fund in the language that they need. You should therefore make sure that your projects are delivered bilingually and that you can engage with people in English and Welsh. If you receive funding from the National Lottery Community Fund to deliver a project in Wales, you will need to do so bilingually and in line with our Welsh language standards. Offering your project services in both Welsh and English is a term and condition of the grant, but it's also a fantastic opportunity for you to make sure that your project is fully accessible to everyone in the community. It's also important that you think of how you're going to deliver your project bilingually before you submit your application, because you can include any associated costs with translation, producing material bilingually. You can include all of that within your project budget. So you also then need to carefully consider those costs of working bilingually. So it could be things like translation costs of publicity, promotional materials, translation of websites or pages, bilingual web design, job advertisements, cost of advertising jobs in the media in both English and Welsh. And also when you promote your projects on social media, this will need to be done in bilingually as well, wherever possible. And we do ask to consider the linguistic nature of your community you work with during the life of the grant and to offer any service accordingly. So in a similar way, if your project primarily focused around ethnic and minoritized communities with different language barriers, then obviously we'd be looking for you to ensure that that linguistic nature of the community is taken into consideration. And then finally, as funding officers, we're all here to help you. And if there's anything you're not sure about or want to have a further chat about anything, please do get in touch. Those are my contact details there on the presentation. We do have new funding officers starting in Ceredigion in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But in the meantime, please feel free to contact me as the manager for the Mid and West Wales region. I can sort of allocate to other funding officers in the interim period, or have those chats with you myself. And then any questions?
And before we go into any questions, I'll give Rachel a little bit of a break.